Or was that just a conversation with the wife?
He was there during that conversation.
Okay. Did he say anything about that one way or the other?
No.
Was there any conversation with the injured passenger about whether she saw the bag actually hit her or not?
No. Not that I remember.
Okay. Do you know whether she saw the bag before it hit her in the head or not?
I don't know.
Do you recall any conversation in the front of the plane concerning the bag that struck her in the head being taken off by a passenger while you were all sitting there?
I don't believe we really talked about it, the three of us. I mean, they explained it as an accident, so I don't think we were looking to go after somebody specifically.
You said they referred to it as an accident? Who are you referring to?
The husband and wife.
Okay.
The way it was expressed to me was that it was an accident.
Okay. So no one was saying that someone intentionally hit her in the head with a bag, right?
Right.
Okay. While you're still on the plane, are there any conversations that you recall being a part of regarding this incident that you have not already told me about?
No, not that I remember.
Okay. And how about after you got off the flight? Did you have any conversations with anyone about this incident?
Yes.
When?
When Claire and I were exiting the airport, we ran into the medic.
Okay. Where was that?
Near the exit of like the terminal C.
And you spoke to him or her?
Spoke to him, yes.
And what was that conversation about?
We asked if she was okay, and he said yes. And I mean, we were there when she refused the ambulance, so they took her out, and then the paramedic told us that she told him that she wanted to sue.
That you wanted what?
To sue.
Okay. So the paramedic told you and Claire that while he was with her, she had mentioned to him that she wanted to file a lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay. Well, is there anything else about a lawsuit other than what you've already told me?
And that's the only mention of it.
Was there any conversation about who she wanted to sue?
The airline.
Do you know the medic's name?
No.
Ever seen him before or since?
No.
Is the medic a United employee?
No, I believe Port Authority employee, but I'm not positive.
Okay. Did either you or Claire respond when he had mentioned that she said she wanted to sue?
Yes.
And what was the response?
How?
And who said that? You or Claire?
Of both of us.
Okay. And did he give any response?
No. No. He said, I don't know. I don't remember exactly what he said.
Is that the same medic who assisted her off the plane in a wheelchair?
Yes.
Do you know whether he was the only person who responded from the Port Authority, or were there others?
I believe there was one other, but I never spoke to him, so I don't recall.
Okay. Was that other person a medic also, or something else?
I don't know.
After the injured passenger and her husband left the flight, did you ever see them again?
No.
Ever speak to them again?
No.
Do you know whether either Claire or Brandon ever saw them again after the flight?
No.
How about whether or not either of them ever spoke to the passenger or her husband after the flight?
No.
Did you speak to the medic again after that one conversation you had?
No.
Did you speak to Claire again after that one conversation with the medic about this incident?
No.
Okay. After leaving the plane, did you speak to Brandon again about the incident?
No.
Do you know whether Brandon ever spoke with Claire about the incident after the flight?
No.
Brandon was not involved in that conversation that you mentioned with the medic, is that correct?
Correct.
How long was that conversation between you, Claire, and the medic?
Like a minute or two.
Okay. Are there any policies or procedures about reporting an incident like this to the company?
Yes.
And is it a policy or a procedure?
Both.
Okay,
Yeah.
and what is the policy?
If a standout incident occurs with regards to any concern on the plane, like safety, medical, etc., we file an irregular operations report called an IOR.
Is it the purser that makes that decision, or is any flight attendant able to make that decision?
We all have to do it if there's an event. Even if you didn't particularly see it, you file one that says, I didn't see it, but I was told this, or I heard this. Or...
Okay. So for this particular incident, there was an IOR created, is that right?
Yes.
And I guess what I'm trying to figure out is how does that happen? Is it Brandon that says we got to do an IOR or something else?
Yes, usually somebody will say that, we all need to do an IOR, and then I believe you have 72 hours after the incident to fill it out, and you go online and get the form, and you each individually fill out your own IOR and then submit it to the company.
Okay.
All online.
And after you submit it online, does anyone from the company contact you? Either email or online or via call?
I've never had somebody contact me. I don't know if they do, if it's particularly serious or not.
Okay, so after you submitted your IOR for this flight, that was the end of the investigation? Well, not investigation, but that was the end of your involvement in reporting the incident?
Yes.
Okay. Have you ever seen your IOR?
Yes.
Have you seen Brandon's?
No.
Have you seen Claire's?
No.
When you submit an IOR, do you keep a copy at that time, or is it something that's sent to you later?
We get like a receipt of it, and then I think you can go look at it for a certain amount of time, but I don't know if they go away.
Okay. If you were able to view it after submitting this particular IOR, did you?
Not during that time, no.
Okay. Have you seen it recently?
Yes.
Have you seen it in preparation for this deposition today? Okay. In between the time, in or around the time that the incident happened and when you reviewed it for your deposition today, had you seen it at any other time?
No.
Prior to submitting your IOR, did you speak with either Claire or Brandon about what you would be putting in that report?
No, because you write down what you saw happen or what was told to you by passengers.
How about after you submitted your IOR, did you talk with either Claire or Brandon about either your or their IORs?
No.
Are you aware of any other incident reports that are generated with respect to when an incident occurs on a flight?
Not for things like this, no.
Okay. Other than your IOR, have you seen any company documents related to this incident?
No.
How about any documents that are not United documents?
No.
During the time that the passenger that got hit in the head was still on the plane, did she appear to be in pain?
She was upset. I had a hard time deciphering if it was pain or if it was shock. And she said that her head hurt, and I think that like her jaw hurt.
Why did you feel she was upset? What did you see?
Well, she was crying. I mean, she had a bag pulled down on her head. So I think that she was a little bit just in shock, I think, over the incident.
Did she say where the bag had hit her?
On the head.
Did she say anything about being in pain?
She told us that her head hurt and that her jaw hurt.
You said that, I'm sorry. Thank you. One works. I was going to say P1, but one is fine. This morning I'm going to hand you a document that's been marked Exhibit 1 for identification. And I know it's a horrible copy, but it's unfortunately the best copy that I have. So if you would just take a look at that. And I guess the first question is whether or not you've ever seen that document before.
No.
Okay, do you know what it is?
Not explicitly, no.
Okay. See the signature down towards the bottom of that document?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, just for the
Yeah,
record.
sorry.
Okay. Can you tell whose signature that is?
All I can read is what I assume is Lieutenant Christopher, but I don't know what the last name is.
Okay. I believe it's Christopher Geyser, G-Y-S-E-R. Does that name ring a bell at all?
No.
Do you know whether Christopher Geyser was the medic that you've been referring to or not?
I don't know his name.
Do you know a Port Authority police officer, Jepson, J-E-P-P-S-O-N?
Not by name, no.
Okay. Do you know whether he was the medic that was on board the flight?
I don't know.
Was there any conversation between you and the medic about what had happened?
No.
Do you recall there being a police officer from the Port Authority on the flight at all?
I don't know, sometimes they're like police officers that have the EMT training, so it's hard for me to honestly distinguish between.
Okay. Did you speak with any person about how the incident happened other than what you've already told me about?
No.
To the right of the signature that we've been talking about, Christopher, there's another signature there. Can you make that out?
No.
To the left of that signature, it says P.O. Jepson. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. And looking at this, I just want to make sure that your memory is not refreshed that there were, in fact, multiple people from the Port Authority that could have been on board. Is that accurate?
I think I did say that. I remember there being two. Like, I remember one specifically, the one that I spoke to. And
Okay.
then potentially one other person, but I don't remember.
Okay, then I don't recall you saying that. I apologize.
It's okay.
The person that you do recall speaking to, was that the person you've been talking about as the medic?
Yes.
Okay. So you spoke to the medic person, whoever that was, and you
Yes.
never spoke to the other person? Is that
Not that I
right?
recall.
Okay. And again, looking at Exhibit 1, you're not sure whether either of those two people are the medic that you've been discussing?
No, I don't know their names.
Okay. Those two, please. Thank you. I'm going to show you what we've now marked as Exhibit 2 for identification. I would ask you to take a moment and take a look at that for me. For the purposes of the record, this document has been marked or base stamped United 021 through 022. Have you ever seen that document before?
No.
Do you know what that document is?
No.
Okay, so based on that response, I take it that you did not create this document, is that correct?
Correct.
Any idea who would have?
No.
Anthony, after you're done with this document, do you mind if we take a 5-minute? I just need to use the restroom.
Totally fine.
Thanks.
The information towards the bottom of this document, do you see where it says post-departure information?
Yes.
And then there's some times located in there.
Yes.
I understand that you didn't create this document, you've never seen this document before, and you're not sure who created this document, but do you have any reason to believe that the information in that post-departure information section is not accurate?
No, I would have no reason to believe that.
Okay. Do you have an independent recollection about any of the times that are listed there with respect to this particular flight?
No.
And then below that, the same questions with respect to passenger information. First, any reason to believe that's inaccurate?
No.
And do you have an independent recollection about whether or not this information is accurate?
No. I don't.
Okay. We'll take 5.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Ms. Warren, I'm now going to hand you what we've marked as exhibit number 3. And again, just for purposes of the record, this document has been Bates stamped United 027 through 30. If you can take a look at that for me, please. And the first question is whether you recognize what that is.
Yes, it's an IOR.
Okay, can you tell whether this is your IOR?
It's Claire's.
I'm sorry?
It's Claire's IOR.
Oh, I gave it the wrong one. Okay. Move on to number 4. Well, now that you have it in front of you, earlier you said you had never seen Claire's IOR, is that correct?
Yes.
And now, looking at what I believe is her IOR, can you confirm that you have never seen that before today?
Yes.
Okay. We'll move on to number 4. Again, take a look through that document. Let me know what it is.
Brandon's IOR.
Okay. And similar to Claire's, can you confirm that you have never seen that document before today?
Yes.
And again, just for the purposes of the record, that document is Bates stamped United 023 to 026. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to number 5. Take a look at that for me. And let me know if you recognize what it is.
It's my IOR.
Okay. Earlier you said that you reviewed that document in preparation for today's deposition, is that right?
Yes.
Was that today?
Yes.
Okay. Prior to reviewing it this morning, do you recall ever seeing it in a printed out form?
No.
On the first page, part of the way down, it says employee information. Do you see that? And then just under that, it says name, Warren, Faith.
Yes.
I want to try to get an understanding, if I could, as to how this document is created. And what I mean by that is when you're looking at it online, are there fields that need to be put in?
Yes.
Okay, so for example, when you're looking at this online, you'll see an area where it says name and you put your name in?
I believe so,
Okay,
but I don't specifically remember. It's been years since I've made one.
okay. Is there any way that you could tell from looking at this document what information you inputted as opposed to what information was already there or inputted by someone else?
Information that I would have had to put in myself would have been my name, my employee number, my base, my email, and then the aircraft type, flight number. However, if somebody has created the IOR for the flight first, then it's the record of it is there, so you can just select the flight and like add your IOR. So
Okay,
some of that information may have been put in by whoever did the IOR first.
okay. And do you recall whether you were the first person to submit information for this flight's IOR?
I was not.
Okay, do you know who was?
No.
Okay. So then, based on that answer, I take it that some of the information related to the flight would have already been included when you inputted your information?
Yes, the flight number and then the departure airport, destination airport
Okay.
would have already been in there, and the aircraft type.
Okay. On the second page, there's a section that says crew information. Do you see that?
Yes.
So I see your name, I see Claire's name, I see Brandon's name, and then there are Three other names above that. The first one is Michael, I guess it's Mamo, M-A-M-O. Do you see that?
Yes,
Do you know who that is?
that would have been the deadheader.
Okay, and underneath that, there's someone, Michael Schubert. Do you know who that is?
It's telling me they were the first officer.
Where do you see that?
Position FO01.
Okay, and by first officer, is that either a,
Co-pilot.
okay, first officer is co-pilot. And underneath Mr. Schubert, we see Randall, gosh, it looks like H-I-N-O. Do you see that?
Yes.
Would that be the captain?
Yes, CA is captain.
Okay, I figured that one out. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next section down, looks like it's titled Conditions. Do you see that?
Yes.
There's a section that says hours awake prior to event, and then it doesn't appear that anything's written in there. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any idea why there's no information in that particular section?
No.
To the right of that, it says hours on duty prior to event, and then the entry says 12 hours. Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that referring to how many hours you were working that day before this incident happened?
Yes.
So this particular flight that the incident occurred on, how long was that flight?
I don't know specifically how long it was, but I would guess around 3 hours and 45 minutes if it was
Okay,
Denver to Newark.
And you're on the plane for some time before that and for some time after it lands, correct?
Yes.
Based on this 12-hour section, I take it you were on a flight prior to this flight on the
Yes.
same day? Do you recall which flight that was?
Hartford, Connecticut to Denver.
Okay. The next section says phase of operation, and the word other appears beneath it. Do you see that?
Yes.
What is that referring to?
I have no idea.
Okay, do you know whether you wrote the word other in there or not?
No. I assume I didn't since I don't know what it means.
Okay. Just below that, there's a section that says taxonomies from linked reports. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then there's a bunch of entries underneath it. Do you know what any of those entries are referring to?
No.
Okay. Did you put any of that information into this report?
No.
On the next page, there is a section up top that says passenger injury. Do you see that?
Yes.
And then underneath that, it says passenger name. It doesn't appear that there's any information to the right of that. Is that correct?
Correct.
Any idea why that is?
I probably didn't know their name.
Okay. Underneath that, it says witness names, and again, it doesn't appear that any information is included. Do you see that?
Yes.
When it refers to witnesses, does that mean people that are not employed by United?
I would assume it meant people employed by United since we don't have information from other people.
Okay, so you take this to mean as any other United employees?
Yes.
Okay. And there's nothing written next to that entry as well, correct?
Yes.
Below that, it says assisting medical professional names and contact information. Do you see that?
Yes.
That also appears to not have any information input there. Is that correct?
Correct.
And then there's 3 questions where it requires, I guess, a circle to be checked in. Do you see that?
Yes.
Did you check in those 3 circles there?
I don't know. All I remember when filling out IORs is filling in the flight information and then my account of it. I don't even remember seeing any of these other things
Okay.
on there. So
You see where it says MedLink notified?
yes,
What's MedLink?
MedLink is when you're in flight and something happens and you need further assistance with a medical problem. So you notify the ground and they'll often give us directions and then are the ones who coordinate with people meeting the flight.
Okay. And just above that, it says enhanced emergency medical kit use.
Yes.
What is the enhanced emergency medical kit?
So we have medical kits on board that can only be opened by doctors.
Okay. And none of those items were utilized for this incident, is that correct?
Correct.
And the last section there says paramedics, is it MET, M-E-T, flight?
At flight, yes.
And it says no information. Would that be referring to whether or not anyone comes onto the flight from the outside?
Yes.
Okay. You're not sure whether or not you checked no information here, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But we know that that's not a correct entry, right?
Paramedics did meet flight, so.
Okay. A little bit further down, there's a section that says narrative, and then there's a section that says subject, parentheses, keywords, and parentheses. Do you see that?
Yes.
And underneath where it says keywords, it says PAX-injury-head/neck/back, comma, PAX-injury-EMT.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yes.
Is that information input by yourself?
Yes, there's a drop-down box
Okay.
of things to select of the category of the incident.
Okay. How many different drop-down boxes are there for the information that appears here on that line?
That would have only been 2 boxes that I checked.
Okay. What does the PAX mean?
Passenger.
Okay. And then is the drop-down for type of injury?
Yes.
And head/neck/back is one of the possible choices?
Yes.
Okay. And then to the right of that, where it says injury again, next to it says EMT. Is the EMT one of the drop-downs?
Yes.
And what other choices are there in that drop-down section?
I do not remember.
Okay. Below that it says narrative. Do you see that?
Yes.
And just below that it says customer injury.
Yes.
Is that already there, or did you input that?
You have to select something or write something in, I assume.
Okay. And then we have the typed paragraph. Do you see that?
Yes.
And is that something that you would have typed in?
Yes, I did that.
Okay. I will ask you just to read that paragraph to yourself. You don't have to read it out loud. And I do want to make sure that as you sit here today, whether or not that is still accurate as far as you know.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. You write in here she seemed emotionally distressed. I know you mentioned that earlier.
Yes.
You said she was crying, but was there anything other than her crying that led you to believe she was emotionally distressed?
I mean, crying tone of voice.
There's nothing in this section about you speaking to the medic in the terminal, correct?
No,
Any reason why?
because it wasn't about the plane. This is what happened on the plane.
Okay.
Didn't think it was important at the time.
That's fine. Do you recall anyone talking about the bag that hit her being a lime green bag?
No, I don't remember. Colors.
you recall any conversation about the bag description at all?
I believe I was told that it was a rollerboard.
Okay, and who do you recall telling you that?
The husband, I think, or the wife. I honestly don't remember.
Okay,
One of the two of them.
okay. Earlier you said that this information needs to be input within 72 hours. Do you know when you actually created this document?
Not without looking at the date on it, no.
Yeah, I don't, is there a date on here somewhere?
Yeah, created June 17th. It's on the top right on the first page.
Okay, June 17, 2016 at 11 p.m., is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
I suspect that you don't specifically remember doing it at that time, or do you?
No,
Any reason to believe that that's not the case?
I'm sure that's true on the night out.
Okay. Why don't we go back to number 3, which is Claire's IOR. And why don't we turn to the page where it has the narrative? Now above the paragraph that she typed in, just below the word narrative, you see it says baggage causes injury?
Yes.
That's a little bit different from yours. You wrote customer injury. And again, I'm trying to just get an understanding as to whether that's a drop down or if that's something that each person individually types in.
I don't remember if that section is dropped down or if it's something that we type in.
Okay. In the typewritten paragraph here, it seems to, well, before we get there, have you ever read this before?
No.
Why don't you take a second and just read her paragraph? I'll ask some questions about it.
Okay.
The first line of her narrative, of Claire's narrative, says that the phone rang and Brandon informed me that a passenger around Route 21 had a bag fall on her head. After reading that, does that refresh your memory at all about whether you took the call or she took the call?
I believe her that she took the call. Yeah.
Okay. On the first page of Claire's IOR, it indicates it was created on June 18th at 1:22 a.m. Do you see that?
Yes.
So that would have been, I guess, about 2.5 hours after you did yours. Is that right? Yours was
Yes.
June 17 at 11 p.m. Hers is June 18 at 1:22 a.m.
Yes.
Was there any conversation between you and Claire about these IORs during that time period, from when these entries were made?
I don't believe so. I don't even have a phone number.
And similar to your narrative, Claire doesn't say anything about speaking to the medic with regard to the injured woman wanting to sue. Is that correct?
Correct.
Was Claire involved in the conversation where the injured passenger told you that it was the same person's bag? It was the person's bag that hit her in the head as opposed to a different bag?
we got there right at the same time, so I believe she would have been, but I don't directly remember exactly what was said with her being involved.
And in Claire's narrative, it doesn't say anything about whose bag would have hit the injured passenger. Is that fair to say?
Yes, it says a bag for long period.
Let me take a look at number 4. Exhibit 4, I'm sorry. That's Brandon's IOR, correct?
Yes.
So it looks like he was first. The created date is June 16 at 5:56 p.m. Do you see that?
Yes.
And similar to what I asked you about, Claire, did you have any conversation with Brandon about his IOR during this time period?
No.
Going back to that same page that we've been looking at for Brandon, the narrative section, you see that?
Yes.
And the first line there underneath narrative, he writes injury, comma, deplaning, comma, carry on baggage, which is, again, a little bit different than what you wrote and a little bit different than what Claire wrote, correct?
Yes.
So again, you're understanding that that's just individualized information that's put in by the person creating the report?
Yes.
Take a second, if you don't mind, and just read Brandon's narrative.
Okay.
When he says at door 1, is that referring to the front of the plane?
Yes, that's the front door of the plane.
Okay. He writes, I had several passengers tell me that a passenger had pulled a roller board back down upon another passenger's head and that she might be injured. You see that?
Yes.
Are you aware of who any of the passengers were that told Brandon that there was an incident?
No,
Do you know whether Brandon knows who any of those passengers are?
I don't know. I would assume no.
He writes, and obviously I'll have the opportunity to ask him, but I just want to get your understanding. He says a rollerboard back down. I mean, do you know if that word back is describing the rollerboard, or if he's saying back down meaning up and then back down?
I think the way I read it originally, I took it as a typo for bag, but I don't know exactly what he meant. So
Have you used the term rollerboard back?
no.
Okay. All right, why don't we just take a moment? Let me check through some of my notes here. I think I'm done, but I just want to make sure, okay? Whether United did any investigation to try to determine who the passenger was that pulled the bag out?
I don't know.
Did Brandon ever say anything to you about the passenger telling him that he made magic happen with respect to him packing the overhead bin above her head?
No.
I don't have any other questions. Thanks so much for your time.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Is it United's policy and procedure for United flight attendants to physically assist passengers with their carry-on bags?
No.
No, it is not their policy and procedure.
It's not our policy to lift bags.
And in the past, when you have assisted passengers with their carry-on bags, is that in your capacity as a flight attendant?
No, it's just nice.
And when you've assisted passengers, strike that. When you assist passengers with their bags during boarding, is it just to help passengers find overhead space?
We'll point out overhead bin space if they're looking for some. If we see any empty spaces, we'll show them.
Okay.
Overhead bin space.
So you do assist passengers in the boarding process with their carry-on bags, but not in a physical
Not
manner?
physically.
Okay. I have nothing else.
Just one follow-up. You said if you do assist a passenger with a bag, it's not in your capacity as a flight attendant?
It's not my job as a flight attendant. That's not why I'm doing it.
Okay, but you're doing it while you're working as a flight attendant, correct?
Correct, I am working as a flight attendant, but it is not our policy to lift bags. If I choose to lift a bag, it's because I'm feeling compassionate towards somebody,
Okay,
which is my own feelings. It has nothing to do with United as a company.
okay. If that does happen, I think you said it happened a couple times for some pregnant women, does the company punish you in any way?
No, but if I was to get injured, it would be my own responsibility, and it would be my own money. If I had to take time off of work, it wouldn't be compensated.
Okay, so if you picked up a bag, it's your understanding that if you picked up someone else's bag on a flight and you hurt your back, you don't believe you'd be able to make a workers' compensation claim for that, is that correct?
Objection.
Do you understand the question?
I believe so, but I honestly don't. I don't know the specifics of making those kinds of claims, so I couldn't speak further to that.
Okay. Have you ever been injured while working as a flight attendant?
No,
Are you aware of any other flight attendants that have been injured assisting anyone else with a bag?
yes.
Whom?
I couldn't give you specific names, but I've worked with people who have been injured helping people with
Okay.
their bags.
And do you know whether any of those people were forced to miss time from work as a result of that?
Yes.
And were those people paid for that time off?
I did not ask them.
Do you know whether any of those people made a workers' compensation claim related to those injuries?
I did not ask them.
Do you know whether the training manual or safety manual specifically states that if you assist someone with their bag, that United will not take any responsibility for what may happen to you during doing that?
Objection. You can answer if you understand.
I don't recall if there's any specific thing in the manual or not.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Claire.
Thanks.
Faith, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Doing that.